Good morning, folks. We're back. Happy Hump Day. It is Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. It's hard to believe we are now 10 days away from the official conclusion of the 2024 hurricane season. And thankfully, we don't really have much to talk about in terms of the tropics. We're going to be focusing primarily on all this cold weather that is swamping across the United States, now making its way into our neck of the woods here in the Southeast. Thank you so much for tuning in over on News 6 Plus, the News 6 YouTube channel, as well as the Just Weather YouTube channel. I'm your host, News 6 meteorologist David Nazario, and today we're going to walk you through this first bout of wintry-like weather, a little bit of a premature arrival in comparison to what we've experienced over the last few months since the early arrival of fall, I should say, post-Milton especially helping to bring down our first dose of bona fide polar air to the region. Going to say hello to a few folks real quick over on the News 6 channel. We have a couple folks tuning in. DNA Centurion, Melissa Riley, good morning. Good to see you. Kevin Hawthorne. And then down on Just Weather, we have Carmen Poole. Good to see you, Carmen. We have Melissa there as well. Julia, Donna, and no, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that last username, so before I butcher it, we're just going to move right in. But it's good to see everybody, and thank you for those of you who can't chat with us right now. We are working on hopefully giving you that opportunity here very soon. More to come on that down the pipe, but let's go ahead and get started. We're going to get going with the full picture infrared satellite here, and as you can see, most of the United States is quiet. We do have that ripper of an atmospheric river setup and a strong mid-latitude cyclone just off the Pac Northwest coast and British Columbia coast. And in fact, I want to stop the loop and drape us over that area because look at that. That is one heck of a comma feature, and I lost the loop. There we go. Let me bring it on back. I'm still getting used to this link system. Look at that bad boy. And would you believe me if I told you that, believe it or not, in the center of that puppy there, we have the same central pressure we would typically see with a major hurricane. I believe some of our models were anticipating a sub 950 millibar bona fide barotropic low making its way towards the Pacific Northwest coast. So they are expecting rockin' winds anywhere between 75 to even 100 miles an hour on the immediate coastline. And you can see the, quote, Pineapple Express, the atmospheric river setup already encompassing much of Northern California, the Pacific Northwest states, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, now getting into parts of Montana. That's going to bring with it another strong dose of cold air as it works its way through the lower 48. But for now, let's talk about what's going on down here. I'm sure a lot of you noticed that, unfortunately, the rain for a lot of us was pretty lackluster. Very lackluster, honestly, to tell you the truth. And in fact, let's get on over to the water vapor. You can see just as the remnants of Sarah, of course, Sarah did us dirty the first time. Everybody was out here saying major hurricane and then nothing happened. Now, at least we were trying to get some much-needed rain out of it, and nothing happened. I stepped outside my house this morning. I'm like, why do I have to crank the sprinklers? I just told everyone yesterday that we have rain coming in to start the morning. And, I wasn't complaining. I was thankful that I could cruise on over to the gym and get the day started on a peaceful note. But at the same time, I didn't think I'd have to rock those sprinklers onto full capacity once again as we get ready for a bout of dry air. You can see back behind this, we have all the dry air that's going to be working its way in. That is the jet stream, the leading edge of our trough, and all that cold air is just going to continue to sink down through Florida. It does look like we're getting a lot of rain in southwest Florida and South Florida, so one could technically say that Sarah did actually pay the South Florida Peninsula a visit, because that is definitely a lot more of Sarah's remnants over open water still than it is that bona fide cold front. Now, moving right along, let's continue the briefing. Still expecting no tropical development over the next 7 days. Hopefully we can keep it that way. I will admit, I'm going to tickle your fancies a little bit, and I know this might make some folks upset. There is one little area that I'm watching down there in the Caribbean, our favorite source region, unfortunately, dare I say. I'll show you right now. We're going to look at our tropical probabilities, and if you met with us yesterday, you know precisely what we're talking about, and if not, I'll give you a bit of backstory. As we scroll through time here, notice that there was just a subtle little bump right in through here in our probabilities. I'm noticing that the shades of blue there are trying to come up. They're nothing too crazy. I think they're still only at about a 15-20% shot. But I'd be lying to you if I said that the German model and the American model weren't trying to hint at some weird amalgamation of a low pressure. Am I giving this a chance in HE double hockey sticks? Not really. We're just about done with the hurricane season, so I don't anticipate anything's going to be kicking off. Next name on the list would be Tony. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on in 2024, so it wouldn't be too impossible to see something happen. But my favorite saying, is it the most likely outcome right now? No. Is it doable? Yeah, but not the most likely outcome. We got to remember that. So we're just going to keep an eye on that little small spot. I'll get back to the good news. As you can see here, the cold temps are coming. You can kind of see exactly where the trough is, too, which is pretty extravagant on this overlay. That's why I love looking at surface temps and thickness and whatnot, talking about troughs and what's going on at the highest points of the atmosphere in comparison to where we are. So if you look, notice that the shades of blue do this, right? See that? Kind of in the shape of a trough, right? Like a V. And then if I wanted to finish off the pattern, all I'd have to do is add an inverted V like so. And there you have it. There's a trough, and then we still have our ridge that's going to be weakening here over the eastern half of the United States as we get ready to flip the pattern into more of a winter-esque type setup with a very strong trough axis over the eastern side of the lower 48, and we get a little bit of ridging back in over the west. However, that really mature comma cloud storm system I showed you earlier on the infrared satellite shot, that's really not going to allow us to come down, or I should say warm up too heavily just yet. We're going to get a bit of a lopsided ridge. So here's the live radar. Live radar, you know, I mean, I wish it was live. I wish it was lit, whatever the kids are saying these days. But we got a little bit of showers going on near Fort Myers, Sarasota. I'm sure the Wink weather team down there is doing pretty good right now, talking coastal rains with their viewers. But up here in our viewing area, we really didn't get much of anything. Northern Florida, nada. In fact, somebody yesterday, if you're still in the chat today, give me a shout out. I'd mentioned that South Carolina could possibly get some rain, and look at that. We got heavier rainfall going on in South and especially North Carolina than we do down here where the main event was supposed to go on. So isn't that something for some sheer dumb luck, I guess you could say. Moving on over to the tracking the freeze and the frost. We're going to talk troughs and ridges using this handy-dandy overlay here, and I'll fade my head out of the image here so we can look through it as we go forward in time. You can see that that trough is still expected to extend just a little bit further down over the eastern United States, looking right in through here. These darker shades of purples, magentas, however you want to describe them, that is the funneling of polar air from the Canadian provinces, the Great Lakes, the Midwest, just the overall higher latitudes that are really going to help to cool us off down here in the southeast and give us our first real taste of hopefully what winter has in store for us as we go over the next month or two. You fast forward, you can see a little bit of that ridging return. I know it's not easily identifiable on here, but we have some shades of blue. See how the light and blue or the lighter blues are now starting to show up. The purples and the pinks have now retreated back towards the north. This is going to allow us to warm up a little bit as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday and the Black Friday weekend, Cyber Monday, if you like to do a lot of your shopping online. And then next thing you know, with the introduction of that next major storm system, you can see down the pipe, here comes our next big trough right there coming down. And it's actually going to be a little bit more slow to progress because if you look at the winds here, they're kind of angling back this way, which would indicate to me that we have a less progressive trough. This would be more of a positive tilt to it. We have a positive tilt, a neutral tilt, and a negative tilt. Negative tilt means we have a lot of cold air just rocking through, moving very fast, and that's typically what gives us our severe weather. Remember, cold air is much heavier and denser, so anything out in front of it is going to get scooped like a rake or a shovel, and that's what forces thunderstorms along the leading edge. This could be a little bit more of a casual introduction of cooler weather as we go just past Thanksgiving and into the very beginning of December. So, finally, last but not least, I want to talk you through the environmental setup with where we sit right now. And then, coming up after the break, we'll dig into exactly what the temperatures and the current conditions will look like, not only today, but for the rest of the work week, and how we can start our weekend on a high note. There's the current situation. We have a front draped pretty much north to south over the eastern United States. That warm sector is now moving through the greater New York area. As you can see, we have it highlighted for the warm sector out ahead of it. It was a little on the mild side today. Not as humid, but you could definitely feel that there was still some warmth in the air. That's that conveyor belt still coming out of the south. But as Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos said perfectly this morning, the winds of change are officially in the air, and we will be changing from that southerly direction to a more northwesterly direction probably within the next hour or two, and we'll start to see these conditions improve after we get beyond the hottest point of the day, however that may look, and then we start to see the sun set. Conditions will cool off pretty quick for a colder start tomorrow. Stick with us. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and then we're going to talk exactly what's going on outside our homes and outside of our offices right now, and what to expect throughout the rest of the day today, Thursday, and then kick off Friday on a high note, folks. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And we're back. Okay, so we were talking big picture weather pattern. We're going to slide through time together here and take a step-by-step look at what the next couple of days are going to look like. And with that being said, let me get my face out of the screen so y'all can focus on the wonderful graphic in front of you. So this is current. You know, we're actually pretty close to real time. Well, we were anyways. I don't know what just happened there. We were pretty close to real time. Let's go forward just a little bit more. We'll get us back to that 11:40 time frame. There we go. You can see we have the front getting ready to pass through Central Florida. And that is one common misconception that I want to get out of the room right away, is whenever you see these bands of rainfall, usually anyways, I know this one kind of dissipated on us as it came ashore the West Coast, but believe it or not, remember that there's that slope to the cold air mass that the cold front on the map is highlighting. That's the outline, the leading edge of it. Without taking away from the graphic here, imagine we're here. I'll go ahead and use a different part of the chart here, and I'll draw in for you. Imagine that we're here. This is the ground that we're standing on. The cold air comes in like so. Comes in at a bit of a slope. So we're going to get it first, and then eventually it'll bleed over above us and then further up into the atmosphere, and that's what creates all the lift out in front of it. So even though you may have seen the rain and you may have seen the rain go away and the clouds begin to dissipate, it doesn't necessarily mean that the full effect of the front is over top of you and rocking through your area just yet. There's a bit of a level backward stack to these features as they move through. And I want to show you the wind overlay here because it does a fantastic job of highlighting it. If you look down over us right now, you can see that cold air is running parallel to the west coast of Florida. It's coming in. It's right on our doorstep, getting ready to come on in and say hello. We still have our warm southerly arrows overhead right now, but if I go ahead and remove my fancy doodle there and I fast forward just a couple hours, let's go to about when we're getting ready to leave the office today, you can see that now we're starting to see the introduction of that cooler air across the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and it is now beginning to intrude on the northern half of Central Florida and kind of cut diagonally through our viewing area. I'll zoom you in so you can see. I'm looking right in through there. That's where that frontal boundary would be, where the densest point of that cold air mass begins to finally move through, and we're bullying all the warm air out over the Atlantic at this point, and the Bahamas are getting a taste of that warm conveyor as it moves through time. I'll bring myself back in and we'll go a little further, and you can see, just look at the winds up across, away from Florida, but back over the plains, over the Midwest, the Ohio, Mississippi Valley. Look at how those gusts are really going, and you can see how they're flowing out of the northwest, and what that's doing is funneling all that cold air further and further to the southeast. I mean, look at the boundary right here. Now you can see it plain as day. There's your front. You can see all those what are called post-frontal winds just bullying the warm air out in front of it, really forcing that air mass on top of us, and that's what's going to help to chill us out as we start the day tomorrow, and especially Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. Let's move on to our future temperatures. You can see right now where we stand this morning. We're still sitting in the mid-70s. We're actually not going to go too far up from here. We might see another degree or two. You can see maybe squeaking into the upper 70s for some of us, but then very quickly by 5 o'clock, did y'all notice as I was clicking through the frames there, the temps are already starting to come down. So this is Wednesday at 5 o'clock as we're all hitting the road. I'm going to be making a second trip to the gym today because I'm just that motivated, getting started on the New Year's resolution early. But whatever it is you may be getting into, we're going to start seeing the temperatures drop, and then as we slowly fast forward into tomorrow morning, check that out. We're going to be starting off in a crisp upper 50s scenario for much of us here in the Orlando metro area. Jacksonville trying to touch that 40s pool just a little bit. Pensacola's there. Miami, you're not forgotten, I promise. I know Miami sticks out like a sore thumb right there, still kicking it in the 70s. But watch as we go through Thursday. Highs are only expected, look at that, highs are only expected to make it to maybe the low to mid 60s. I don't know about you all out there, but I'm here for it. I think a lot of folks would agree with me. We're ready. We're done with hurricane you-know-who and 95, 100-plus heat indexes. Let's get into the holiday vibe. Let's get the festivities going, and let's start to feel some of what the winter season ahead has to offer. You go fast forward even further from there and take a look at Friday morning, the finale of the week, and you can see a lot of us are going to be right on the nose of getting into the upper 40s as we start the day on Friday. And then Saturday, don't even get me started. Let's just fast forward. Saturday morning, as we're getting ready to get outside and have some fun, we're all starting in the low to, or I should say the mid to upper 40s with the low mid 50s going on down there in extreme South Florida. So I told you, if you're down there in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the Homestead area, or even into the Keys, you are not going to be left out of this one. We're all going to get a taste of this cool weather together, which I'm really excited for. And with that, we will segue to our key takeaways before we open up the floor to some questions if you guys have any. So, the rain, as we all know, was a bit of a dud. And we have a working theory here amongst us in the Pinpoint Weather team that since a lot of the stuff we saw blowing up over the Gulf of Mexico was forced not only by the cold front, but also pulled in by the remnants of Tropical Storm Sarah, we're thinking that because Florida itself was so stable, we woke up this morning, there wasn't a lot of moisture in the air. It was still fairly cool out. I mean, it was warm relative to our skin, but in terms of developing thunderstorms and carrying robust showers through our area, it just couldn't do it. So if you were to watch a replay of the radar, you can see as all those storms came through, they immediately died the moment they touched land. And I think that's the main reason why. We had remnants of Sarah and a cool Florida surface, and that's why they just couldn't they couldn't make the cut, and they didn't make it. Skies are already starting to clear, and we can expect the temperatures to start to drop between 2 to 4 p.m. this afternoon and continue to do so as we go over the next 24 hours before we were dead center, that polar air mass that's coming on down to our area. And then finally, coldest temps still remain for the weekend. We should begin to reach the low 40s in the morning by especially Saturday and Sunday. So I know that we've had a wild 2024. It's been one heck of a year. I can't believe I'm sitting where I am right now even and talking to you all as we get ready to ring in the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm extremely grateful for everybody out there who's tuning in, who's given me an opportunity to talk weather with everybody. Very grateful for those of you who came over from my YouTube channel prior to and joined me on this new pathway of experience that I get over here with the Pinpoint Weather team at News 6. Let's go ahead and get into some questions before we round out the show. If anybody has anyone, I do see Kevin Rivera over on Just Weather. Hi, David. God bless. God bless you too. How is your day going so far? You know what? I can't complain. I'm not tracking the tropics, and we're talking cold weather as opposed to got to check out what's going to develop next and where it's going to go and how it's going to affect this area and so on and so forth. Joanne Mena, forgive me if I messed up that name on Just Weather. Good morning from Palm Bay, Florida. Melissa Riley on Just Weather also says, can't wait for the cooler weather. Mick and Marley, good to see you in the chat on Just Weather as well. Am I the only one getting whiplash from hurricane season to full-on winter? No, you are not. I can openly admit that, and my buddy Thomas and I were having a conversation just before the stream mentioning how we went literally from talking tropics to, okay, now big cold front winter holidays and we're done. It's wild how back and forth it's been. So I totally feel you on that one. It has been a roller coaster of a ride pretty much all year long. And I just wonder what else could have in store, what else Father Time and Mother Nature could have in store for us between now and December 31st. Kevin Hawthorne over on News 6. Good morning from Lakeland, Florida. Not a friend of mine, but a neighbor of mine, I should say. I'm about 40 minutes away from Lakeland. I've frequented Lakeland on a number of different occasions. All right. A lot of folks mentioning that they can't wait for the cold weather. Thankfully, I honestly can't wait either. It's going to be so great. I'm ready for it. I love the first big push of cold weather because that's when everyone really begins to realize it's fall, winter is coming for my Game of Thrones fans, and that means Christmas and New Year's are right around the corner. Definitely look into some of the Christmas events going on around Central Florida. I'm really excited to see some of the Festival of Lights that they have going on out there, whether it be in Orlando, Tampa Bay, anywhere else. I'm sure that there's a lot of other locations that'll do it, even some hole-in-the-wall joints. Some neighborhoods or local areas will tend to do big festivals, whether it be Christmas lights specifically or the whole spiel where they have everything that you could imagine to really celebrate that Christmas spirit. And I also really hope that your Thanksgiving and however you want to celebrate next week goes phenomenal for you and your loved ones as well. I wish I could, Melissa. Trust me. If I could control the weather, shout out to those who still think meteorologists have like a joystick back here driving hurricanes and whatnot. That's not a thing. But if I could, I would. That's for sure. Ooh, somebody's coming on the chat right now saying my forecasts were a bust since Raphael. I don't know what forecasts you're talking about. And that's from a longtime viewer, which is a little rough, to tell you the truth, because I don't know what forecasts I'd mentioned at all. Even mentioned the fail modes multiple times for Sarah, mentioned the fail modes multiple times for the track. So honestly, you might want to take that elsewhere because I don't know the last time we actually put out a hard forecast and missed it that much, minus the rain. I already openly said that on the chin. This dissipated faster than we were anticipating. So, but that's neither here nor there, folks. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. I hope you have a great Wednesday. I hope your week has been spectacular up to this point and continues to do so as we get into Friday Eve, Thursday tomorrow, and then we round out the week on a very positive note with clear skies, cold temps, on Friday. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at the same time, same place. Until then, this is the Digital Weather Center signing out.